Hi, I'm Jack. Welcome to the No Limits Business Lounge.
So today we are speaking to Jodi Duggan. She is the owner of Enablement Group, a specialist in HR, and she will be demything the HR functions of a company. Hi Jodi, welcome
Hi.
to No Limits Business Lounge. It's lovely to meet you, and I know you walked in and you felt quite nervous, so I'm going to break the ice straight away, okay? I know you were in the army, so we've never met.
In the Navy.
In the Navy, even better, in the Navy. So the first question I want to ask is, the discipline you learn in the Navy, is that in your business?
Absolutely. I think discipline is one of the core values that what you learn in the Navy, especially from the age of 16. So I joined the Navy when I was 16, being through education for 11 years. You're very disciplined, you're taught to put your hand up, but going into the military is a whole different ballgame. I grew up with parents that were both in the military. So my dad was in the military for 25 years. My mum did 4 years. They met in the military. And I think having such a disciplined upbringing as well, leading into the military, it's always been instilled into me. But definitely discipline needs to come into business as well, because you have to be disciplined to have a good business.
Yeah, and the reason why I wanted to actually start on discipline, for me, it's such an important characteristic of any business owner. But when I was looking at your website, and I have to admit, it was only half an hour ago.
That's okay.
Because I don't like to script things. I don't like to do research. I just
It's
thought,
also been redone, so when people say to me, I've looked at your website, I'm like, no.
well, it looks great. The
Yeah.
website looks great. But the thing that screamed out to me was discipline.
Yeah.
Because you currently run things yourself, aren't you? Just on your own. And there's so many services that you offer. And I think to myself, how is it possible for one person to do that? And the word that screamed out to me, well, if I was doing that, it would have to be discipline.
I think there's an element of discipline, but also I was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 23. I'm 26 now, and I think it answered a lot of questions for me.
Yeah.
So there's an element of discipline, resilience, and the fact that the way that my brain works with the ADHD is that people look at my business and think, oh, there's 10 people working in that business. But
well, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
You know, when I looked at the website, I thought to myself, oh, okay, she must have a decent team to be able to do X, Y, Z.
yeah,
Because we'll get onto the semantics of HR, but when I seen that it was just you, I was like, oh, good job here, but what's the next step?
yeah.
But I mean, a great place to start, really. Why is it just you?
So it's just me. So I set up Enablement HR, what it was, last March. So we've been going for just over 15 months now. And I'd set up the business to be a HR consultancy. We rebranded as Enablement Group in December last year, just because we realised that businesses we was working with, our clients, they needed more than just HR. HR is a full-rounded approach of HR recruitment and learning development, and we could support our clients with all three of those. So we just felt that Enablement HR just didn't represent that anymore and became Enablement Group. The reason why it's just me is I just want to be able to grow in the right way. I want to grow organically, and I think having the right people in the business is what's going to make us a success. I don't want to rush into hiring the wrong people as well, and I think it's really important to hire at the right time, as we advise business owners.
Yeah, no, that's a good mentality to have, because if you speak to any business owner, any seasoned business owner, the first thing that they will say to you in terms of mistakes was hiring.
Yeah.
Not in the sense that the reason why they hired, it's who.
Yeah.
And you go through these mistakes quite a lot. I've been through it myself, where I've hired people and it seemed right at first, but it didn't work out. It's normal. Now, going on to HR, so is it a case of companies and business owners outsourcing the HR to you? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so when we started, it was typically smaller businesses that we worked with. So smaller businesses that aren't at a size where they hire in-house HR support, they would typically outsource that to a consultant. And as we've grown over the past 15 months, we work with larger businesses as well. And obviously, as the team grows in Enablement Group, as I hire people in-house, we will be able to grow to support larger businesses. So when I was in corporate HR, we would typically outsource certain projects, so redundancy projects, just because a consultant is a lot more impartial. So as we grow as a team in Enablement Group, we'll be able to support those larger businesses with those outsourced projects, but typically, the smaller businesses we support.
Yeah. So what made you actually take the leap and start Enablement?
So I was made redundant twice in a period of 5 months. So I was made redundant in November 2023.
Was that redundant from your HR role?
Yes, I was working as a HR manager alongside the NHS. So I worked for a facilities management company, and I was solely responsible for 550 hospital cleaners as a sole HR manager, which was very intense. The role was made redundant in November 2023, and then I started a new role as a head of HR in a smaller company that had just over 100 employees. They then decided to make me redundant because of budgets, which meant I was made redundant twice in 2 separate roles in 5 months. And I was just ready to take the leap. I've got 2 young children. My eldest daughter was 5 before I'd ever done a school run. It was always on my husband, and I just knew that something needed to change to have that flexibility.
Yeah. This is going off topic, but I actually noticed a trend, particularly since COVID, so what we're talking 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Redundancy was on the rise, but the trend that I noticed was it was HR that was being targeted.
Yeah.
And I know that because I know across several other businesses that we're making people redundant. They focus on HR. Why is that, do you think?
I think it's a really difficult one because I think as an in-house HR professional, we tend to look at an outsourced option because I don't think HR is seen to be a strategic function in an organisation. You typically see HR as an operational function, whereas when the leadership team look at the redundancies, they look at where they can lose those personnel within the business. And I think it's not right to look at things like that because actually HR is strategic. It is very operational, don't get me wrong, but it depends on what that role is within a business. So I think when companies look to make those redundant in a business, they look at where they can make those savings and outsource that as well. And typically I've seen an increase in outsourced consultancies becoming, companies as well, which is what we've done. And I think people are looking to outsource it as well, just because it's much more cost effective for businesses.
Yeah, and do you know what? I agree with you because I could probably think of 5 businesses that I spoke to in the past 3-4 years. When they've made redundancies, they asked my opinion on whether or not they should go ahead with it. And the conversation was always around the HR team and then cost effectiveness.
Yeah.
And obviously from my perspective, I agree with you in the sense that the leadership team don't see the strategic function. They only see the operational and they don't see the value of both.
I think as well is HR is a function where you support the bottom line of an organisation, so you help increase the bottom line. So for example, I worked in an organisation where there was a really high sickness and we reduced that sickness by £70,000 a month. So we reduced that sickness, and relating that into financial figures meant that the operational team, so the operations director, could then see the value that HR was bringing.
But that's what I mean, they can only see the value when it comes to
figures.
The pound sign.
Yeah.
They can't see the value when it's not being monetized, if that makes sense.
And I think that's where in my career as a HR manager, I strategically saw the commercial side of HR, and that's where my career shifted to become a more commercially aware HR professional, and which I deliver in my consultancy, is that there's definitely an element of being a commercial HR professional that you have to be aware of, because when you're talking to CFOs or financial directors, you have to speak their language.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are making them monetary decisions, and I think being a HR professional, you learn very quickly that you have to speak in terms of money, because if not, HR is not seen as a strategic function, and it's not seen as a function that needs to be there.
Yeah. So we just jumped right in. So obviously I now, in the position that I'm in, understand the HR function.
Yeah.
But if I was to go back 10 years, my first thought when I thought of HR was, okay, these are the people that can hire me or sack me, that's it, right? So why don't you tell everyone that's listening or watching, in a nutshell, what does HR actually do in a company?
So HR, so if you think of the employee life cycle, so you've got everything from recruitment to offboarding. So within that, you've got your recruitment, you've got your onboarding, you've got your life cycle, which includes the training of the member of staff. So everything from when you recruit that member of staff all the way to when they leave a company, anything that's people related, we deal with as HR. So I always say to people, HR is not just hiring and firing, which is what people say. It's not actually HR's decision to fire an employee, it's the decision maker, which will be the line manager. We just advise, and we purely advise based on what we think on what is going on in the legislation. But I think what's really important is that we help, managers, empower managers to be able to make those decisions. And I think the most important part of HR is being able to empower those managers to be able to empower their employees.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. If obviously now the way in which I look at HR is, if you imagine, I don't know if you're a football fan, but if you imagine a football team, right, and you've got the person in the centre of the pitch that dictates the whole game, that's HR. They dictate from speaking to the decision makers, but the employees. They have to be that string that attaches everyone. So I now see that, obviously, whereas in the past I didn't. And I think that's, in my opinion, not highlighted enough, that function. And for whatever reason, but one shift that I've seen, especially in a lot of corporate companies, is HR has now branched into so many different divisions. Whereas before it wasn't, it was just all in one package. So I guess you are taking that perspective and delivering that for your clients, right? The different functions, but all within one consultancy. Is that right?
Yeah, so I think obviously as HR has evolved over the years, we was the personnel function, and then we've become the HR function, and then you'll also see people referring to the HR function as people and culture. So I think there's a lot to say about the people and culture function, because at the end of the day, if an organisation doesn't focus on its culture, it's the end game, basically, because if that workplace has a toxic culture, you're not achieving anything.
So what are some examples of working on the culture of a company?
So working on a culture with a company could be having employee engagement forums, so making employees feel engaged within the community. Something we did in an organisation I worked for in corporate was that we had that employee engagement forum, because what we found from the employee engagement surveys was that the staff didn't feel heard. So we had these anonymous surveys, which meant that they'd suggested that we had this forum, which meant that the SLT would sit down with representatives from each section in the organisation and be able to have their voices heard. Because I think working on culture with a smaller organisation versus a larger organisation, it's the same, it's just multiplied. But until you actually get to know the business, it's hard to understand. Because I think I'd mentioned something recently on TikTok actually about people saying, oh, well, we're all one family. It's seen as a red flag if you're all one family, because you have to have those boundaries in place. And I think the thing is with smaller businesses is they are seen as one family, but without those boundaries in place, you then turn yourselves into a toxic culture. So boundaries are really important when looking at the culture of an organisation.
What do you mean by boundaries?
So having boundaries is healthy boundaries. So I think when you as a business owner, you have an employee, if you're seen to be out with them on a weekend or going out for a drink with them on a pub on a night, that's okay, but it's also having those healthy boundaries. So I don't know if you've ever listened to Vicky Owens' podcast, The Business Class. So she's sort of a Gen Z managing director, and she talks about healthy boundaries in her workplace and how she doesn't give any of her employees her personal phone number, just because she values the importance of boundaries, and that she used to sit opposite them in the office, and her business coach had said to her, have a separate space where you sit, because it's that employee mentality. They're treating you like one of their colleagues because you're sat opposite them. And she said the difference it had with having a separate office, which is sort of this glass around it, to being sat opposite them was huge, because she now had those healthy boundaries in the workplace. They wasn't talking to her like they was friends. They was treating her like she was the boss. And it's making sure that you're seen to be the boss in the organisation, and you're not seen to be friends in the workplace.
Yeah, and I think what you mentioned, it just reminds me of a time when I lived in Newcastle. I was a manager of this company in Newcastle, and I was tasked with creating a group of people and basically running the company, because the owner of the company was in Dubai. And what you mentioned is, I didn't know to do, but I did it, if that makes sense. So we had the team in a bullpen sort of location, and then I had a separate office with a door closed policy rather than door open. Now, I know nowadays people will think, well, that's a bit, why shouldn't it be open? But my thinking was, I was the same age as them, but they need to understand that I'm their boss.
Yeah.
I'm their manager.
Yeah.
When it comes to 6 p.m, we could go out for a meal, we could talk, we could engage, it's fine. But they knew the work environment. I think that's really important. What you said is actually so common, and I've just thought of little family companies, and I've never thought of it like that, because they have that environment where they're either friends in business or family in business, and there isn't that boundary. I'm actually meeting with 3 friends tomorrow. They own hotels, and they have no boundaries. Yeah, they'll go on holiday together, they go out for drinks together, etc. And I've been speaking to them for 2 years now, saying to them, look, not the boundary pop. I've been saying to them, you need to look at your share individually, not together. Yeah. Because if you fall out, what could happen? Yeah. So I completely get that. Now, in terms of your business now, so are you focusing on business owners or other HR people?
So our primary sort of focus is business owners. We have got a primary focus at the moment on working with the construction industry and offshore, but for the next month we're going to be looking at targeting our marketing towards construction.
Why construction?
The reason being is that we've worked with construction companies before, and we get on really well with those. Being in the forces myself from the age of 16, I've worked in really heavily male-dominated environments. I think it takes a certain person to be able to support those organisations, and obviously a lot of construction companies are very heavily male-dominated environments. They have subcontractors as well, which comes with different rules and regulations, which not every HR consultant is confident on advising on. I am, which makes us more stronger to be in that environment. And we've just identified that the pain points that the construction companies have, with the high turnover, being able to recruit the right people, we can really add value to that. And I'm always a person that wants to be an effective business owner in where we can add value, and I think it's really important to stay in your lane as well. So we can support any organisation, but our marketing efforts needs to be targeted at the ones where we feel that we can really, really add strong value, because I think as a young business as well, having that reputation so early on is really important to that business success.
So you've sort of built your own niche then, haven't you? Yeah, which is good. And I think I mentioned that in one of the earlier podcasts about having a niche. Yeah. Because you can't be the same as everyone else. Yeah. And succeed, you need to have a specialism. The way you have your specialism with construction is refreshing to hear for someone so young. Yeah. Because usually they don't realise that until a lot further on in the business career. Yeah. My specialism started with public sector, NHS, teachers, firefighters, police. It still is that, because reputation. Yeah. So if I walk into an environment, for example, next Friday, I'm going to this huge event. It's an education staff event. I've got that reputation where I walk in and they all know me. Yeah. They can speak to me. They know what I'm about. That has served me so well, and I would honestly say that's been the bedrock to my success of my business. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Because it does take a lot to kind of say that out front. But when it comes to your business ideology, then you've said you've got a niche in the construction company, but you will speak to others. Did you start off with smaller businesses, then scale up, or did you just go straight into it?
So we still predominantly work with smaller businesses. Yeah. Like I'd said recently in the podcast, is that we will scale to work with larger businesses and work alongside HR consultants. But I think what's really powerful as a business owner and is seen as a strength is focusing on whilst it's just me in the business, is what we need to focus on and where we're going to bring in the burst revenue to come into the business, and that is the HR consultancy and niching that down to the construction industry. If I was to focus on our marketing efforts being, we work with construction industry, with the business owners in construction industry, we work with HR consultants, we also work with all these other business owners. That's what we did at the start, and I think it was a confusing marketing message, whereas now we're saying we work with construction managers or construction business owners. We've really identified that ideal client profile, and I've got a business coach that I'm working with as well on that, and she'd said something really interesting to me and was like, almost have an ideal picture, so draw a picture of who that ideal client looks like, and when you're doing your marketing efforts, talk to the camera as if you're talking to them, and that's something that we're going to be working on over the next month.
Okay, so you mentioned a business coach.
Yeah.
How long have you been working with a business coach, and why?
So I've only recently just engaged with a business coach over the past 2 weeks, so it is something that's really new. Again, listening to other sort of entrepreneurial figures. So I look up to sort of Amy Smale. I don't know if you've heard of Amy Smale. Obviously being quite a young business owner, female business owner myself, Amy Smale's quite young and has been very successful. Vicky Owens being one of them, there's Grace Beverley. And I listened to a lot of their podcasts, and something that really resonated with me was that they'd wished that they'd got a business coach sooner, because it basically is a catalyst to that success. And I think being on my own as well, I got into business because I know that I'm strong and I know that I'm a strong HR consultant, but I didn't get into business because I've been a business owner before. And I think being able to lean on someone that has been there, has done it, being able to have those ideas and bounce that off, it's been something that's been really valuable to me, and even just engaging with her over the past 2 weeks, I've seen a lot of differences in me as a person, and being able to look at things from a different angle as well.
So when you started the business, was it 18 months ago you said?
15 months ago, yeah.
Okay. What would you say are the biggest differences being a business owner to being an employed person?
The risk element. I think I've always been a risk taker, but I think I've never taken as many risks as I have in the past 15 months as I have in my whole entire life.
What type of risks?
I think it's more the fact of you cannot forecast. For the first couple of years in business, they say, don't they, for the first 3 years in business, you don't expect to see a profit typically. And I think going from a head of HR position where you're getting a certain amount of money each month and you can plan your bills, your mortgage, etc., to then go to, you don't know what you're going to be bringing in each month. I think that's a massive risk, obviously having a family. And
how does that make you feel though? Because I'll get onto why I'm asking that. How does that make you feel, not knowing what you're going to earn?
I think with me having ADHD, I think it's something that's quite difficult. The not knowing part, I really struggle with that, and then sometimes I think it can make me quite anxious, not knowing the forecast of what the business is going to bring in. But again, over the past 15 months, we've been able to better forecast. I've worked with my accountant to be able to understand the numbers better. I'm working with my business coach to understand the finances a lot better, because again, it's not a strong part. You know, it's all about delegation and understanding that. I got into the business because I'm a HR consultant, not an accountant. I don't understand the financial side of things. But as we grow as well, we have retained services. So as we get more clients, I'm working with my business coach to get a certain amount of clients so that we can forecast. We're definitely going to bring in this amount each month, because our retainers are a 12-month contract as well. So once we get to that point, I think it'll make me feel much more comfortable moving forward in the business. But of course, there's always, you know, peaks and troughs in business that we can't see.
That unknown of what you're bringing in each month, I'll be honest, from my point of view, when I was younger, I loved it. It sounds crazy, but I loved it, because not knowing whether I'd earn a penny or I'd earn thousands, it drove me. It drove me to earn more. So the one thing I will promise you as a business owner, yes, planning is effective tool for you, but when you do get established, maybe 2 or 3 years in, be fluid. What I mean by be fluid, enjoy that moment, knowing that next month you might earn X, Y, Z. The month after you might not earn anything. Because when you can let go of that sort of control, it makes you feel very content. So even now, at this stage of my career, there's 1 month where I will earn a ridiculous amount, but the next month I'll earn nothing.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm mentioning that is all business owners need to accept that's part of business. And the sooner they accept it, the sooner they can move past it. And I know with your condition, it might be a bit more difficult, but honestly, it's one of the best feelings of being a business owner. But at the same time, at the start, it's one of the worst feelings.
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
I think I see ADHD as my superpower though as well, because it's definitely something that's brought me to where I am. Everything happens for a reason. But we had a plan B as well. So I've also got another business. So we've got a property business. We have 3 serviced accommodations, so 3 Airbnbs. That took off obviously from the off. As soon as we had those running, we was bringing in profits from day dot. And that's also supported my income. So we started that business in May last year, so 2 months after I set up Enablement. And a lot of people looked at me and said, why are you doing 2 businesses, setting up 2 new businesses in the space of 2 months from each other? And actually looking back and knowing that it was the best decision, it was a strategic decision, because it is passive income to a certain extent, and we are growing that portfolio as well over time.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say, are you taking tax advice there?
Yes.
Yeah, you make sure you do, because I've seen quite a few people that have done the same thing. Now, with regards to your business, then, so you're 15 months in. That 15 months for someone that's starting a business like yourself, very young, what has worked well and what has been the difficulty in starting a business from scratch?
I'd start off with the difficulties. I think the difficulties is having a young family, being a mum.
That makes it more impressive. It does. Yeah,
I think, my days differ from depending on what's going on with the kids. Like tomorrow we've got 2 sports days, so I won't be in the office tomorrow, but having that flexibility to be able to do that as a business owner as well is really good. But I saw this quote yesterday where it said, if you're building a business and you've got children, hats off to you, because it's one of the hardest things that you will ever do. But I think the difficulties is it's almost building that community around you. So a lot of people from the outside will see that I've built a really strong community around me, and I've networked like hell for the first year. But I've taken a back step to that now, because I've really needed to focus on working on the business rather than working in the business, and not being out all the time having these conversations that might not lead to anything. It might be that relationship building. Difficulties, I just think, is feeling out my depth. I think actually it's a strength, actually putting your hands up and saying, I am vulnerable, I don't know what I'm doing. There's been so many times where I've cried on an evening to my husband, and I'm like, can I do this? Like, am I capable? But I think the most powerful thing to say to someone that might have an idea or is even thinking about trying something new is just do it, because you're never going to know if you don't start. We never feel ready, do we? I don't think there's ever a right time to start a business, but I think that's been the hardest thing for me is just feeling quite out my depth. But I think some of the strengths and some of the positives that have been from starting a business is I've really, really pushed myself, and I've really sort of understood me more as a person. I think I've been in my own company a lot more because I've worked on my own, and I've really, really understood my capabilities as a human being.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest benefits that you'll see for your business and for yourself is time. Time, I've always said, and I'll continue to say, is the most valuable commodity that we can have as business owners.
Yeah.
As soon as you can basically work your business life around your time, that's when you know you've made it successful. It's not monetary value, because I know plenty of people who are earning millions and they just don't stop. They're still working 5, 6, 7 days a week. That's my personal opinion. I don't see that as success, because for me, success is, have I got time where I want to do whatever I want? Because if you can, that's all you can ask for, right? Now, with your business, you're on your own at the moment,
Yeah.
right? When are you making that next step of your business evolution yourself, of hiring someone?
I think ideally I would like to grow the team end of this year, early next year. Just with obviously the time frame. So my business coach, we have a time, I'm working with her for the next 8 months basically. So the end of that will be February next year, and we've got goals that we want to reach to be able to get to that next step. So I think hiring will happen towards the end of this year, early next year.
And is it going to be a big push in terms of scaling the business then?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that what your plans are?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now then, you're in your own business, you're working for yourself, you're fitting that around your family time, you're doing a lot for yourself, you're speaking to a business coach. Have you put a value to your own time?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
So that's one of the first things. If you would have said no, I would have told you, sack your business coach.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the first lessons I learned. Putting a value to your time, if that costs you more than hiring someone, you need to hire someone.
It was one of the very first things that someone had told me when I'd gone to go and do an entrepreneur course, was that put a value on your time. Because, for example, my marketing, I outsourced that to Carl's marketing, and I was looking at how much time I was spending on my social media management and email marketing. I don't know how to do email marketing, so that would have took me a lot of time to be able to figure that out and pay for the right resources. So then once I put a time figure on that, a monetary figure on that, and the time it would have took, it would be a lot more than what it would have cost me to outsource. So that person's always in my head when I remember them saying, put a value on your time, and then if it costs less to outsource that, then outsource it, because you're never going to grow
100%.
as a business if you don't.
100%, and I've always taken that approach. And I guess we can flip that towards business owners and your company.
Yeah.
So for them to outsource, what are the benefits for them to outsource
So for
the
them,
HR?
Yeah, for them to outsource the HR is, you're a business owner because you're good at what you do. I've done a master's in HR management. I'm assuming that the business owner hasn't. They might have done, but predominantly they've not done a master's in HR. They've not done their training in HR. They've not seen the mistakes that have happened in HR to be able to make them a HR consultant. So I think we're in business because we're good at what we do, not because of all the other aspects, which is why I've got an accountant. I didn't train to be an accountant, and I value their expertise. So I think the value in outsourcing to a HR consultant is their expertise that you're bringing into your business.
And it's like every other industry. I'm in the finance world, but it doesn't mean that I can do what an accountant can do.
Yeah.
It's a different specialism. If you go to a GP, they can't do what a dentist does, even though they're in the medical world, right? So HR function, business owners need to understand. I still do know quite a few business owners that just do it themselves, and if I could, I would take my shoe off and hit them. I would, but how do you persuade people to let go of that control?
I think it's a really hard one, because we typically get businesses that come to us when it gets to a reactive HR need rather than a proactive. So they typically come to us in a time of crisis, which is where we start to work with them.
What type of crisis would it be?
So, for example, if they've got a disciplinary issue, or they've got an employee on long-term sick and they don't know how to manage that. We've worked with quite a lot of clients over the past year where they've got an employee on long-term sick, they've got a mental health problem, and they've been told by an alternative HR provider that they can't terminate their contract. Obviously, there's ways and means of doing that to support that colleague and making sure you do things in the right way, but it's not impossible. So I think it's those type of situations where the business owner is losing sleep over a certain situation. I mean, there's a lot of things why business owners lose sleep, money, etc. But HR, when it becomes reactive, there's a lot of pressure that's put on a business owner if they don't know how to deal with it correctly. We've seen subject access requests where an employee will put in a subject access request, which is where they request their information. So all of the information in that business that has that person's name associated to it, they can have access to it. Obviously we'd have to redact third party information, but that's another situation where a business might come to us in a reactive need, is that they have a month to reply to that and the ICO gets involved and stuff like that. So we typically start working with the organisation when there's a reactive need for HR.
So how would you go about trying to get them to be proactive? Because I think that's the shift that needs to happen, right? Rather than just reacting to problems.
I think younger business owners tend to be more proactive.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know whether it's the shift between what they've always been used to, and I think, you know, we've worked with business owners in the past where it's been a reactive need, and it's been something that they've needed support with there and then, but it'll be like, okay, so do you want us to come in and do an audit of your systems? No, because we've had no problems for the past 20 years, so it was just that.
So do you think it's a generational thing?
Potentially, yeah. I think potentially we're seeing a generational shift of people understanding the importance of having their people function supported, and I think HR is much more than policies and procedures. It's about us supporting with that culture and looking how we can develop the staff within the team. So I think it's not that generationally people are seeing much more of a need for policies and procedures. It's them understanding the value that a people function, HR function can bring to that team.
Because I guess one of the few similarities between my business and your business is that issue, and I do see it as a generational issue, because when I work with business owners or small companies and deliver my services on a corporate level, I find that the younger company owners, a younger leadership team, they're more open-minded and they bring me in. Now, I'm brought in to speak to the directors, but also to speak to all staff on financial well-being. How can I help them?
Yeah.
So that's part of, you know, culture, right?
Yeah.
But the older business owners or the older teams, they're so reluctant.
Yeah.
So reluctant, because I remember this conversation I had. There was someone actually at the Royal Mail, and I went in for a meeting, and the first thing they said was, well, I don't stress about money. Why should they stress? I thought, well, that's you. You can't speak on behalf of thousands of people, right? But their mentality was, well, they can get over it.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's where we go back to the generational thinking, is almost, it's like, if it doesn't impact me, it's not going to impact my workforce. Whereas I think more younger management or SLT teams, they're more open to understanding their staff, they're more open to understanding the thoughts and feelings, they have more of that open door policy. And I think that says a lot when it comes to the managers or the business owners, those younger business owners that are more open-minded to work with HR and finance, because they see the value that it brings. Whereas, like we'd mentioned earlier, if you can't put an ROI on that, it's really hard for some business owners to see the value of bringing us in to support their organisation.
Yeah, and I mean, my motto is really, if your staff are happy, they work better, they're more productive, and that will achieve longer term results, not immediate. And that's where I think a lot of younger business owners, they understand that concept. So now that would you say you're established or still new?
I'd say that we're still new.
You're still new, okay. So in terms of scaling then, you're going to build a team, hopefully, in the future, and you're going to want to grow.
Yep.
Are you in your own office, or is that something that you're working towards?
No, so we've got an office at the moment, albeit it's a small office, but it's what we need at the moment. And having that office space was something that, again, I wanted to do for my own mental well-being. Going from working from home, having a room as a work from home office, the transition to being able to have my own office just shifted that mental clarity. Again, being a mum of 2 young children, it meant that I didn't drop the children off at school and I had to go back and think about the washing or putting the dog out or everything that the house comes with. I can just sort of drop the kids off and go to the office, and it's like I'm then in my own working environment. That's my space, that's the working space. Whereas I think working from home, it has its benefits, and I still do the odd day here and there, but I just think for me that there's a lot of sort of benefits to having that separate space.
Yeah. So as a HR specialist, I want to ask you a question, because you'll soon learn a lot of things get on my nerves.
Yeah.
Right. What are your opinions on working from home?
I think working from home allows a large variety of people to access flexibility. So whether that be...
There was a law, wasn't there, that come out recently? It was the work flexibility or something like that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of changes that are happening with employment law over the next year. But I think, you know, from a diversity point of view, it allows people that may not be able to get into the workplace because of disabilities. It allows them to have that time at home. Also, if there's parents that need to do the school run, it allows that flexibility as well. I think as an organisation, you need to assess what's best for your team.
So on a case-by-case basis?
Yeah. I don't think it's a case-by-case basis, because I think there needs to be that blanket approach of being able to everyone feel equal. But I also think, again, the case-by-case basis is assessing everyone's needs individually. And you might work better at home 5 days a week, I might work better in the office 5 days a week. I think giving that flexibility to your staff says a lot, because not everybody wants to work from home. People don't always have the space to work from home.
Yeah. But do you feel as if that decision or power, let's say, is now belonging more for the employees rather than the employer?
I think so, yeah.
And do you think that's a good thing?
Yes and no. I think...
the reason I ask, I'm a categorical no on it. My view on it is, and I get this extenuating circumstances, right? Where, you know, if you physically can't get in, or if you have children, you know, you need a bit of flexibility, and I think business owners have a responsibility to provide that flexibility. But I don't think work from home should be a decision left to people. I think you have to earn it. Because what I'm seeing more and more of now is younger adults, whether they've just graduated from university or in the early 20s, mid 20s, their approach to the employer is, I want work from home.
I think there's different angles you can look at this, because actually, interestingly, I was having a conversation with someone the other week where I was saying that I think younger employees benefit more from being in the office, because if I think back to the start of my career when I was 16, I've always worked around other people and I've learnt so much so quickly.
Invaluable.
Exactly, it's invaluable. And I actually got my first working from home role, which was my second redundancy. So I'd never really worked from home. I'd always been in the office. I'd always been around other people. And I think there's power around being other people, because you learn, you listen to conversations. There's a lot going on. And I think there is benefits to working from home, don't get me wrong. But I think every business needs to look at what they are doing, because I worked for this organisation where I was working from home and they got rid of all their offices, and it was a remote organisation. And it's a really hard battle, because until you understand the reasons and the rationale between why people want to work from home or why a business would suggest a remote working environment, I think it's really hard to give a definitive answer, really.
I don't think I'm a fan of the law changes where it's giving employees too many rights to choose and have a lot more protection, because I get the flexibility part, but I think especially for younger adults, them not going into office, it's going to detriment them in the long run.
I think we're almost as well going to see an increase in mental health. Because
I'll give you an example, because I got the strangest request ever. I didn't react well to it, but I asked someone to work from the office, right? More, because I felt as if they were not being as productive at home. And, you know, that's my choice to make as a business owner. But then the request came in to pay for the travel to go into work, pay for the lunches to go into work. And I thought, no, because that's your place of work. I gave you the flexibility to start off with. So that got me thinking, well, where next? Because is that going to be another law brought in where employers have to pay for their travel and lunch just to go into the workplace?
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I think I've spoken to quite a lot of business owners, obviously, with the change in government. We won't get into politics, but I think there is becoming more employee rights, and I think it's putting a lot of pressure on businesses because there is so much more compliance that they have to adhere to, which again I think is why you should have a HR consultant, whether you have 1 employee or 100 employees. You should have a HR consultant guiding you and supporting you, because how do you navigate those changes as a business owner? Yes, you see the bulletin of what's being updated in employment law, but actually navigating those and understanding what you need to do with those, it's almost like you have a HR consultant to translate that and allow you to understand how you need to implement those changes into your business.
Now, I don't know how we got into the law side of things, but it's just something that does bug me, I have to admit. Now we get on to something you mentioned earlier about networking. I guess that's lead generation, trying to obtain business. So I get why you're doing it, and it's an important function. Talk to me about your network strategies, because you said you did a lot of it.
Yeah, so I've actually just recently sort of taken a back step to networking. So I was a member of BNI for a year, which was my first year in business. I decided not to renew just because, again, I was spreading myself too thinly. It was every Friday morning. It was, once a week.
What were your honest thoughts?
I enjoyed BNI. I liked the structure, but being a one-person business, until we grew as a team, I just didn't think it was something we could continue to commit to. There's a lot, you have to commit a lot of your time to BNI, and I had to look at where I needed to prioritise my time, and unfortunately something had to give. And I was a member of another local community to me as well, and I decided to terminate that networking sort of agreement with them as well, just because I was giving up too much of my time to networking and not necessarily seeing the return.
But you tried.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing. I mentor quite a few people who are new to business, and the one thing I say to them is try, fail, and then you'll find out what works. I've made terrible decisions, I'll be honest with you. I remember doing this thing with the NHS. I signed a contract with them for a year, and it was expensive, very expensive. And I thought, well, considering how many flipping people go to hospital, it'll pay its dividends. Got nothing from it. 6 months in, it was just causing me headache more than anything. And I thought, no, it's not worth this. And that was a big learning curve for me. So networking for you, you did the BNI, you did the local community one, you've come out of it, you've taken a back step. So would you say you had any successes out of it?
Absolutely, it's definitely grown my network. I've always said that your network is your net worth, and I think it's absolutely paramount to have that network around you, because you never know when you might need to lean on people. I think being a member of BNI, there was a lot more established businesses in there. I could, reach out to people for advice. It was definitely worth my time. Like I say, it was just something had to give. I identified that I was spreading myself way too thinly, and to be able to grow the business in the way that I want to, I had to look at where I was prioritising my time.
Do you think you were a bit too early for that type of thing?
No, I think it was definitely something that I needed to do straight away, because it had advanced my business quite quickly. I saw over 12 times my investment in BNI, which typically you're not supposed to see. They say that your first 9 months in BNI, you don't really expect much, because obviously relationships is what builds people's businesses, and people need to know, like, and trust you, and it can take up to 9 months for that to happen in BNI. So I definitely saw a return on my investment. Like I say, it just something had to give, and with it being once a week, it was something that I needed to review.
So where's your lead generation strategy shifted to then?
So we work with Carl's Marketing now. Obviously we've got a marketing package with theirs. They do our social media management and our email marketing. So we've reviewed our lead generation, which has gone from heavily networking, which has involved me solely doing all that networking, to then reviewing where our marketing strategy lands, and obviously working with my business coach as well with cold sales outreach and identifying that ideal client profile is where we're putting a procedure in place to be able to generate those leads.
Okay, so that's lead generation. Would you think, from an and networking point of view, are you going to go back in
Definitely,
eventually?
yeah. I think as we grow the team, it'll be either me or another one of my team.
Do you attend any, for example, you said your niche was construction, do you attend any construction specific events?
We will be, yeah. And I think something that we've recently started doing is something my business coach had mentioned, is tap into other, professionals that already work with the construction industry. So something that has been really powerful, her saying, was searching on LinkedIn, helping construction companies, connecting with those people, building a relationship with those people, and almost if your niche was construction, is building that relationship with you and then saying to you, we can help each other out here because we can actually be referral partners. And that's another part of the lead generation, is building those referral partners in the construction industry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just to give you an example, obviously Carillion, you would have heard of Carillion, no longer around, obviously. Yeah. But when I used to work with a lot of the senior guys at Carillion, a lot of those have gone on to build their own businesses, still in construction. So it's a case of LinkedIn, such a useful tool. Yeah. Whether or not you pay for things such as Sales Navigator or not, it's an expensive investment.
I used to pay for Sales Navigator, but
it's how you use it. Yeah. So, and the one advice I'd give you, you've already mentioned it, when it's not your area of expertise, reach out. On LinkedIn, not a lot of people know, but there's people who are on LinkedIn, who work for LinkedIn, who train you on how to use those. Yeah. So I think there's a woman called Julia Salonen. She gives you her time for free. You don't even pay her. She shows you how to actually perform searches and enhance your profiles as best as possible. So it's a bit of a tangent, but those people who were ex-Carillion, they are perfect for you because they're not small, but they're not large businesses, if that makes sense. Also, I think the construction events, I've seen one at the NEC in Birmingham. There's one next month, I think, or the month after. I do a lot of targeted networking, and when I speak to my mentees, I explain to them there's two branches. There's direct marketing, where you go to places like BNI, but there's also targeted, where you're looking at your niche and you're seeing what's out there for that specific thing. The difference is, in my opinion, your targeted one will retain a lot more investment for you than that one. Yeah. Because that one requires a lot of work, as you've probably experienced. I did that, I don't know how many, 9-10 years ago. Yeah. Hated it. I'll be honest, I hated it. But this one, the targeted, I love it because it means I'm building my reputation in that industry. I'm meeting people that I want as well, and that's so important. Yeah. But yeah, so away from work then, you've mentioned your background in the Navy and your family life, etc. You're based in Hull. Yeah. Are you geographically targeting that area, or is it national?
So we do have national clients, but whilst we're doing sort of the targeted marketing for the construction companies, we're starting with local companies because I think there's power in having a personal presence, and the fact that we can go and see them in person as well.
You mentioned offshore though earlier. Yeah. Talk to me about what you meant by offshore.
So offshore industry, so you've got the offshore wind industry. So my husband works in the industry and has a lot of connections within the industry, and we are potentially working with a client in the offshore industry in the next couple of weeks, going to see them next week, and it's just a specific industry that we've done our market research on and seen that there's not really any HR consultants specifically working with that sector. So again, through the research, we've identified that can be another industry that we can target. And I think as well, working with that offshore company, we'll do a good job for them, and then they'll refer us to other offshore companies as well. So it's just the strength.
So is that specific country or?
No, so I mean, so it'll be the UK to start with. I mean, the huge goal for the business will be to go global. But at the moment we're UK based.
Start small, build. Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've mentioned obviously how you've scaled your business from scratch, right? Did you set up as a limited company? And
Yeah.
so you did it all properly. And is that something you had to learn yourself or seek advice on?
I just Googled it, ChatGPT. I think, I've always been quite entrepreneurial. I've always wanted to have my own business. I've done like little side hustles before, so I always sort of knew what I needed to do to set up a business. But accessing the gov.uk website, there's a lot of information on there on how to set up a business.
It's a crap website though.
And engage with an accountant quite early on as well, which advised me obviously to what I need to do for the business.
I'm only asking that because if anyone is looking to set up their own business, that is actually one of the first hurdles they fall at. They're like, what the hell, how do I do it, what do I do, do I need to submit a self-assessment, do I need to do X, Y, Z? And it puts some people off, because that's the unfortunate thing in this country about being an entrepreneur. There's so many there's red tape everywhere, and you have to kind of navigate your way, and there's no better person to do that than a HR person. That's the funny thing. So I guess that's where your specialism is. Now, from a financial perspective then, you mentioned you were a HR manager and you're a head of HR. There's lots of courses at university that focus on human resources and business management. When they come out, what does that trajectory look like? I mean, is there decent earnings in it for people that are coming out of university?
Well, I did a non-traditional route, I suppose. So because I joined the forces at 16, obviously I didn't do A-levels, I didn't go to university. I then did my masters, started that when I was 22, but because of the experience that I'd gained, I didn't have to do a foundation degree. I was accepted onto a master's degree.
What master's degree was that?
So I did it in management with human resources, and I graduated last year. So January last year I'd completed that and graduated last September, which was a real milestone moment, being able to take my two children to watch their mummy graduate. It was a really proud moment. Because I started that when they was 3 and 1, so to be able to do that and them see me do that part-time whilst working full-time was a really, really proud moment. But I think because I didn't do it the traditional route, I was already working alongside doing my masters. I think it's, for me, I wouldn't be able to say the earnings that it would give you from getting that masters. I think it's more the credibility element. So obviously, as the founder of Enablement Group, I've got the highest qualification in HR. So I think from a credibility point of view, people know that they're getting that expertise and I've got that qualification to back it up.
Yeah, I think, I mean, when I speak to a lot of students, so I lecture at the University of Central Lancashire sometimes. And there was one course, I can't remember the course, is it business management, I can't remember what it was. And there was 2 students, a girl and a boy, and they were saying to me that they want to get into HR, but they're finding it difficult to get in because there's not a lot of grad schemes that are specific to that. Is that true? I don't know.
I mean, again, I've never really looked into it because I've not needed to, but I have had a few people reach out to me asking if I would take on an intern, just because I don't think there's many intern opportunities out there.
It seems to be quite a difficult field to get into, get your foot in.
I think...
Because everyone wants an experienced HR because it's such an important function.
I think it only takes one business to be able to take on that person, but there's not many businesses out there that will take a HR person on with no experience. It's something that I'm really sort of want to look at as we grow the business, is having sort of HR apprentices, because I think, again, it's a route into HR. I think especially on LinkedIn, I've seen a lot of people that have gone to do their masters in HR management, the same as me, but have done that without having the HR experience and expect to come out of that and be able to land a HR manager job. And I just don't think that's the case, because they need to have that HR experience. Just because you've got a master's in HR, it needs to be backed up with experience. You can't just go on to be a HR manager without the experience. Yeah,
out of every industry, I think that's one industry where I don't think many businesses would ever hire someone with no experience in that role. But then how do you how do you get the experience?
Yeah.
That's the difficult part, isn't it? But yeah, so I think that's the end. Do you have any questions for me at all? Because we spoke all about you and your business.
What would be one of the biggest tips that you would give someone that's only just started their business? Because obviously you've said that you've been going for quite a long time.
So I would say keep working with your business coach if it's working, right? But demand results, because at the end of the day, that's what you're paying for, right? The way I would look at it, because you're so early on in your career, I would take a 10-year plan. It sounds really basic, but a 10-year plan, and just separate it into 3 categories, right? So the first 3 to 4 years, be what we call a hunter. That means you hunt every piece of business. You are ruthless, and you have that mindset of you're growing. The 4 to 7 year period, that's your period of delegation, I would say. So you need to be able to be comfortable within yourself and say, I need to make sure my business runs without me. Because your business will only be successful, it sounds weird, your business will only be successful if it can operate without you. Because if it can operate without you, what you've built is a business that has a saleable value. You can then sell it. You can't sell a business if it cannot run without you. Right? So that delegation period of your career is hiring people to do every function of your company, right? And the period between 7-8 years to 10 years, in my opinion, that's just the way I am, is contentment. Your work then becomes 10-20% of your life, because it can work without you. You're earning what you need to earn. People know you in the industry, and the rest of your 70-80% of your life is everything else you're doing. Whether you want to go spend 5 hours in Pilates and go to this camp or that camp, it's your choice. You're in control. So that's my advice, is have a mindset of that. But the most important part is, don't forget, time is the most valuable commodity that you can have. And I only say that because I've had so many experiences with business owners who they've scaled a business and then they've died. And then that business has not gone to the grave with them, has it? It's what they've left, what legacy have they left. When you get to that point, you then protect your assets in terms of your business. So obviously we're talking in advance, but get to those stages. I think that's my tip for you. But yeah, any other questions at all?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Great, well, thank you.